We have a very special guest from Germany, and he's going to introduce you to the really strict way of thinking of running a little label. Give us a warm hand for Michael Reinboth. For all the people living in Austria and Germany, I think if they haven't run into him as a DJ before, there was a certain moment in history where suddenly this guy was to be seen on all the magazines in the German-speaking area, I think in Switzerland, Germany and Austria. Because he was declared as Minister of Entertainment for a big fucking international cigarette company. How did that happen to you, Michael?
Oh, you start with a shit story. No, this was something similar, let's say, to the Red Bull thing. Cigarette companies started founding ministers for music and nightlife, which was me, and for fashion, art, and science, and things like that. And we made similar events like here, so it was in 1988 or something. And that was also, of course, advertised, sponsored by the cigarette. That's the story. We did lectures, we did parties, we sponsored parties. Me as a minister for music and nightlife was mainly responsible for giving industry money to cool parties, for sponsoring parties. Because usually the guys in the industry don't have a clue about underground and what is cool, what is great, what should be supported. And that's why I installed these ministers, and I was one of them, and this was a good thing on that hand. On the other hand, it was, of course, advertisement.
Nowadays, what Michael Reinboth stands for in first place is, of course, his label Compost Records and JCR, Casanova Compost Records. Yeah. I'd really love to have a few anecdotes of your life. Like you are probably nearly as old a fart as me am. What age are you born?
I'm 44.
44. So you told me yesterday that you started DJing in a time when DJing was not about packing your record case and go to a club, but how were the clubs at that time?
Yeah, my first DJ gig was 1980, and in that times usually the discotheques had the records. And also old friends of mine like Sven Feth or Westbam from Germany, I guess they have known, were born with the same situation, going to the discotheque and picking up the stuff which was there. And you know, if you're starting this, you don't have a clue. You know, you have maybe 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 records there. And I was not really happy with that situation. I was maybe the first one who brought his own records, but I didn't have much, so what I did is I tried to ask some magazines. I would like to write about music, so I started journalism to get promo copies. And I know a lot of people in the music industry, in the music business, starting with writing about music, because it's the best access to get promos, to get a bit known, to get in communication with record companies. And that helps a lot. And of course, then I took my plastic box with records and walked 3 kilometers with this box to the discotheque and played my own stuff. And
you should also mention that the status, the social status of a DJ at that time was below the one of a waiter in a bar. Being a DJ, you sometimes got less money and surely less respect than the waiters.
Yeah, no, I played for drinks, so I didn't get money in the first place. And the only good thing was that I was able to buy the records for the discotheque. And so I've got money from the boss and went to all the shops and bought the stuff I liked. And it was a nice side story that one time in Munich, where the Oktoberfest is, where all the famous people coming to the Oktoberfest, there was also the guys, the Khashoggi family coming, and they came to the discotheque and asking me, hey, we need these records for a discotheque in Dubai or somewhere. It's great music you're playing here, all the soul funk stuff and electro hip hop stuff of that days. How to get this record? And the good thing, I had a list of all these records I bought. I had to do this just for the books of the discotheque, and I took the book, gave it to the record shop, and that packed these together, and I sent it to Dubai, and they paid me a huge amount of money. That was my first earnings. As well, he left a real golden pen, and he signed a check, and he paid me in advance. It was great. The best job which I did in 5 minutes, and I think for that time it was unbelievable money. It was 2,000 Deutschmarks that time for me, and of course, that was also a time when I sold cassettes. That was one of my income, not really from DJing.
And still he's very humble and modest, and told me yesterday that, well, you know, I don't really consider myself as a DJ, because what I do is not really mixing, I'm more a selector. I think many of the people of your generation have this approach to music still.
Yes, this is also a bit of a policy of Compost Records. I'm still a selector, more try to pick up interesting records, quality stuff, and rather than doing the technical things. You know, I'm now DJing since 24 years or 23 years, but I'm a really bad mixer, and I never turned really into the mixing thing. For me, it was technique, and it helps me a lot to have this full spectrum view and a wide range of interest in certain styles, rather than concentrate on the mixing thing. So maybe you don't call me DJ, but hopefully selector. So I guess I'm a selector, more than like these Jamaican DJs who were giving the technical guy the record.
And besides being a great selector, you are also an unbelievable collector of records. Tell the people how many vinyls you own nowadays.
Oh my God, I never count them, so roughly, I don't know, 60, 70,000. Yeah, I mean, if you collect records since 23 years, then, I mean, I got a lot of stuff sent, of course, promos, and the shit ones, I don't keep that, so that's not including that. Maybe if I would keep them, then I would have double.
So how much space for things like a bed or a kitchen is there left in your house then?
Well, there are two rooms.
So after your career as a journalist, you became mainly a DJ. And who were the most interesting or important people that you ran into after that?
Yes, throughout the 80s I've run a few parties, Soul for Shack in Munich, and of course the Into Somethin club night, which is still existing in Munich. It's now 12 years old. And we invited a lot of DJs, Seiji over there, or Charles Peterson, or Joe Closell, Kyoto Jazz Massive. And that club night also I met a lot of people who producing music, and yeah, becoming friends with mainly the old artists from Compost Records, like Trüby or Rainer Trüby, Fauna Flash, Beanfield. So all this happens within this club night.
Compost, in the first term of the word, is a place where you throw those parts of the food that you think can be reinserted in the nature's circle. What was your idea for that name, Compost Records?
Yeah, first I was looking for a name which wasn't really a label name or a band name or something, but then I later found out that there was a funk fusion band in the 70s called Compost, but I didn't know that when I found the name. Searched a bit if this name is existing as a record company or as a label. And then I found the syllables .com very interesting, very modern, and of course post means sent to. Also post-structuralism, post-modern. There's a very, very modern elements, and I thought, hey, tricky. And then at the same time, when I was thinking about the name, a girl told me that she was really into magic things, reading about books about witches, and she told me that the American witch circles, which is a convention of the positive witches, they're calling themselves compost. And I said, oh, why? So, whoa. And I found out it comes from the Middle Age. Maybe it sounds a bit Harry Potterish, but in the Middle Age, there was these magical things happened that the compost heap could explode because there's chemical interaction in this. And I said, hey, wow, that's a good label name. We use these ingredients from funk, soul, jazz, electro, techno, putting them all together with samples, and would be magic if this can explode. So that was the basic idea. And I thought, fantastic name, could be magic.
So which of the records that you released on Compost helped the most for your living? I mean, which were the most successful in commercial terms?
In the first place, it was the Future Sound of Jazz compilation series. It was catalog number 9, the first one. And Rainer Trüby's the Glücklich compilation with Brazil fusion music. So the compilations first were the ones who brought us a bit more money to invest in a few more other artists. And then the big success came years later with Nova. And simultaneously with a few other artists like Trüby Trio, but of course Nova is fantastic, talented, great music, and I think they have this respect worldwide, and the sales were quite good to invest in further projects. So from that point of working together with Nova, we signed Coop from Sweden, which was let's say the next success in the label history, and they're still selling in good quantities, even in hard times. Yeah, and today we have roughly 160 releases and up to 20 different artists. So first of all is name of label, trademark registration, administration. If you intend to start a label, of course, first thing is looking for a name. First, you should do is search in the internet as much as you can if the domains are free. And if you find a very old 70s, 60s label with the same name, best is if you don't take that name, because they can come up after 20 years and claim that they have had used this label name. A registration of label name costs roughly 500 euros in Europe. It differs a bit. Sorry, not in Europe, in Germany. So that's what I found out in Germany. In Europe, it costs roughly 5,000 to 10,000 euros, and it's, let's say, guilty for 10 years. And you can choose categories to register, and you definitely should register also the merchandising aspect. If you have a label, you have slip mats, you have caps, you have pants, whatever, all the merchandising stuff. And you should be aware, if you register a label, you should also register the merchandising and telecommunication and media consulting office part of it as well. Yeah, just if you read the first sentence, you need a distributor. Sounds silly, but it's true. I mean, I know a few friends of mine who started having their own record ready and presenting me the test pressing, and I said, wow, great record. So what is your plan? And I said, yeah, Michael, can you help us we cannot find a distributor. And at the moment, we're living in very, very hard times, in recession times, and the whole industry have problems with sales as well because of download problems, the MPC problem, CD burnings, and most of all, the recession all over the world. It's very hard and difficult to get a distribution deal. That's why it's very important first, before you start anything, talk to a distributor, presenting your demo there, and checking out if there's a heavy interest in that. If that, then you can start on negotiating a distribution deal. And then you should get the quantity, how much you will press. You should get that figure from your distributor. You should not talk with your artist, or you should not think, okay, I can maybe sell 500 copies or 1,000 copies. Talk to your distributor, how much they would sell. They can order pre-sales from their shops and chains in the domestic country, as well as they can start sending this to their distribution partners in the foreign countries, and they do the same in that country. No distributor is able to collect orders from foreign countries.
What should a person do who wants to start a label and has some good artists that are more unknown? So they are not well known, but the production is very, very good, and it is releasable, and they know there's a demand for it because people are asking for those tunes over and over again. And there is the possibility to start a label, but there's no distribution.
My advice is burn maybe 50 CDs and sending it to all the relevant, interesting distribution networks you can find in some guides. For example, at the Medium, you will get such a thick book with all worldwide distributors. Picking up, or maybe the ones or talk to people who run a label, which distributors they work with, and getting the addresses and sending them the CDRs. Maybe 20 copies is enough. Writing a letter, you should maybe also mention the label name in the first place, because if you're telling a businessman at the distribution office you intend to run a label, you have not name yet. It's really hard if the distributor do not take your music, doesn't matter if it's a CD or a vinyl, you only have the chance to sell it by yourselves, by hand, running into the shop and ask the shop if he would sell it. And then you have the problem that you have to give the records in commission. You don't get the money in the first place when you jump in the shop. You have to wait till this stuff is sold, and then you get the money. So it's the same with the distributor. The other thing what helps a lot is getting quotes from a little bit famous DJs on radio stations, putting that on your script, that you have already passed the copy to whatever, DJ Hell or Giles Peterson or Joe Closell or Mad Mike. And if you have these connections, it helps very much. It helps so much because everybody in this business these are business people you talk with, that are not really people coming from the music side. But they have heard about these names, and if you have a recommendation by these people, it helps 100%.
A few years ago, or maybe more like 10 years ago or something, it was popular for people to just make their own white labels, like 500 copies, and like shop them around to a record store. Do you think that that's still a relevant test for beginning to start a label, but because there's so many steps, like that would be a first step just so you learn about record pressing or demand or something?
That's absolutely true. Until the 98 or so, it was possible to press 500 copies, even 1,000 copies. It was no problem to press them and to find some distributors who would take them. But that's changed dramatically in the last 2 years. The situation at the moment is that the distributors are overwhelmed. They're clearing their stock on warehouses with all these records. Maybe they have sold then 300 of that or 500. At the moment, the situation is they do not taking that, even if it's 100 copies, because it's a stock problem, and it's definitely also a warehouse problem. There are a lot of small labels doing this, and as the music is good enough, and then it definitely works, and that, of course, it finally depends on the music. But if you're really unknown, and if you send, for example, an MP3 file to Compost, we're getting that every day. We don't have the time to listen to all that. We're getting roughly 10 up to 15 demos per day. And there was a interesting story in the Groove magazine in Germany last month. They request some techno labels how much demos they're getting, and the average quantity was about 15, 20 a day. I mean, there are albums or single or just one track, but all together from different people, 15 a day. Can you imagine how much this is worldwide? It's roughly 10,000 tracks worldwide are made daily. That's a fact. So there should be other ideas to get your message across and to get your music across. Sending it definitely to the first people who really liking it, or may liking it, and then talk to these people if they can help.
When you want to get your material out there for the first time, I want to know if it's better to try and get a distribution deal first, or you try and license your stuff to a label with the name so that they can do everything for you.
That's a good question. You should always take this option into consideration and try to go both ways. We did this in the beginning with Compost. We sold a few records on vinyl, and in the same time we tried to get some compilation deals. We talked to people, can you help us out? We need a little bit more exposure, please. And licensing stuff, if the music is really interesting and really good, you may definitely find a partner who may license it. Often question I get asked is, what about, can we do a cover version? Can we cover this? Can we cover? Yes, you can do. You can do whatever you want to do. You can cover every song. You don't have to ask, but very important, you can't change the lyrics.